All right, so what did Jesus say about self-awareness as we dive into this topic? Many leadership gurus, spiritual sages, and people really of great influence have zeroed in on the far-reaching effects that a lack of awareness can have on people's relationships with one another. And Jesus himself addressed this issue about lacking self-awareness. Matthew chapter 7. There's this encounter in the scriptures where this group of people gathered to listen to Jesus teach. And towards the end of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount is what most people call it, he offers advice about the danger of personal dishonesty and pride in regards to facing our own blind spots. So Jesus said to a crowd of people, he says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck of sawdust out of your eye, and all along there's a log in your own eye? You hypocrite," he says, "first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." In this teaching, Jesus addresses the instinctive human drift toward comparison, hypocrisy, and even arrogance, toward looking at others with a more critical eye than we use for ourselves. He knew that we only loosely hold ourselves to the standards that we so dogmatically enforce on others. When we focus our critical attention on others, we tend to become judgmental, proud, even hypocritical. And that's why Jesus emphasized looking honestly and humbly at our own life first before pointing out the deficits of others. He knew that most people, no matter how mature they perceive themselves to be, consistently fail to take an honest, humble look at themselves. Our inherent challenge is that we're acutely more attuned to dysfunction when we see it in others, but significantly slower to recognize it in ourselves. We move toward making judgments of the people around us before turning that judgment inward. It's typically how it goes. And sometimes we don't stop there. For a variety of reasons, we may even exaggerate the flaws of others while minimizing our own. I know I'm guilty of minimizing my own flaws and magnifying those of others. How about you? Sometimes I find myself talking negatively and critically about a mistake that a friend made, that I've actually made the same mistake many times. When I spot something another person did poorly, I sometimes want to tell someone else about it to make, if I'm honest, sometimes myself feel better. If I think someone didn't tell the whole truth, I want to think of them as a liar of some kind because it makes me feel more noble, even though I've done the same thing. Tell a little white lie, think it's okay. If someone gives a good talk, perhaps, I may, try to find one thing they didn't do well and tell other people who ask me, what I think, right? To put them down and lift myself up. And it's just not right. We all do it. We're all guilty of it, but it doesn't mean it's okay. And we ought to face this kind of thing to understand why we do it and then address these kind of things head on. This is what it takes to become self-aware. Well, what we don't want to do is pretend that we don't do this, because we'll continually and perpetually live in self-unawareness. However this all plays out for you or plays out in your life, it's usually fueled by something of an insecurity or perhaps selfishness or pride. It can come from a variety of unhealthy motives, one that includes a dysfunctional competitiveness that creeps in our spirit. It may also derive from jealousy or envy, or it can even be, pure arrogance, as if we think we're somehow better than others. And this is a flawed part of us, and it's also revealing of our own skewed perspective. And not only that, it can damage a relationship that we have with someone if we don't monitor our motives, if we don't pay attention to our insecurities, if we don't keep our tendency to criticize and put down others in check. Again, it takes work. And I'd like to say that I'm always positive about people and that I don't struggle with any insecurity or jealousy or arrogance or those kind of things, but that's not true. And in moments that I'm not proud of, I have found myself zeroing in on the speck in someone else's eye while ignoring the log in my own. And I bet if you're honest, you'd say the same. Take a few minutes and reflect on that. How do you do that? What's going on underneath the surface for you? And what does God maybe want to do in you to help you change that about yourself?